Sports Clash Radio with your hosts, Chad and JC Martin.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Sports Clash Radio with your host Chad Martin, JC Martin. We're talking college football again. It was a wild weekend this past weekend. I wasn't sure how it was going to break down, especially after we went through our pick'em last week.
Right.
Boy, we missed on a few of those.
Yeah, I mean, there were 5 huge upsets.
There really were.
5 unranked teams coming in and beating, 5 top 25 teams, as well as you had number 11 Wisconsin knocking off number 7 Nebraska. And some people call that an upset, but I thought going into the game that Wisconsin was the better team.
And you talked about that.
Right.
Anyway.
I was not a believer in Nebraska. I think that they just had an easier early schedule, and then that their schedule was back heavy. And I think now we're going to see some losses start to stack up for the Cornhuskers.
Well, as well as Navy's been playing, to have USF come in and then lose to USF, and that was nothing but a shootout. Again, no defense. Right. 52-45. I was really surprised that the game went down that way, as well as Navy's been playing. But again, you have that one. Oklahoma State beat number 10 West Virginia. No way did I think that was going to happen. Now, you did mention last week where Oklahoma State's not really as bad as their record would indicate.
They're not.
So it's probably wasn't as big a surprise to you as it was to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I really like the way West Virginia's been playing, but then whoa.
Yeah, West Virginia's been playing well all season, but Oklahoma State started off the season ranked for a reason.
Yeah,
they have the talent, they have the ability. I think it was a huge milestone for Mike Gundy. I think he got his 100th career win with this victory. So not only was the victory over number 10 West Virginia huge, this was a personal career milestone for Mike Gundy and everything that he's done at Oklahoma State for so long. He's been there forever, so we've seen the ups and downs of his tenure there. So big shout out to Mike Gundy, man. Keep on doing what you're doing.
There you go. Unranked Wyoming. They beat Boise State, who's number 13, 30-28.
That one caught me off guard, because at the end of the day, it's Wyoming, and when has anyone ever heard of Wyoming being relevant?
Yeah, and you actually made fun of them last week when we were picking this game.
I can literally name one Wyoming player ever, and that's because that particular Wyoming player played for the Dallas Cowboys in the early 90s, and that was Jay Novacek.
There you go.
Outside of Novacek, I cannot think of a single particular Wyoming Bronco.
And speaking of teams you were hating on, South Carolina beat number 18 Tennessee.
Well, Tennessee,
24-21.
you finally did what I thought you were going to do. You had the SECs on a silver platter. You beat Florida. You beat Georgia. We expected you to lose to Alabama.
Yeah.
Thought the A&M game could go either way. It went in the favor of A&M, but I wasn't going to hate on you for that.
But this one...
But you lost to a horrible Will Muschamp-led South Carolina Gamecock squad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Now, that is a terrible loss.
Speaking of terrible losses, well, it's terrible for Baylor. It's great for Texas. Hook 'em. Unranked Texas beats the number 8 Baylor 35-34.
I was in Fayetteville, Arkansas this weekend for a wedding, so I was at the wedding and the reception stuff while this game was going on. I actually caught it this morning as I was getting ready to go into work, and I was watching. I was like, man, was actually a really great game.
It was fun to watch.
Start to finish, it was just a good football game, even though all expectations were that Baylor was going to win this game easily because Texas has underperformed all year. But, I mean, this Texas Longhorn team came to play. The Freeman brothers, Deontay and Mari Freeman, they just went out there and tore it up. Deontay Freeman, 250 rushing yards. I think he had 1 or 2 touchdowns. Yeah. And then the other Foreman brother, I think it's Monty, if I'm not mistaken, Foreman, sorry. He had 100-plus receiving yards and a touchdown. So this was a great day for the Longhorns to go out there. And, of course, this was a home game for Texas. So it's not like they went on the road and beat Baylor. But still, this is a high-powered Baylor offense. And they got the game was won very late when Baylor had a first and goal at, I believe, the 2 or 3 yard line of Texas. They were already up. They were up by 5 points, and Texas kept them to a field goal. Exactly. And when Texas kept them to a field goal,
that was huge.
All the momentum switched back in Texas' favor. Of course, they go down the field, they score the touchdown, Well, did they get? Can't remember. No, they didn't get the 2-point conversion
Yeah.
because they were down by 2 points. They ended up stopping Baylor again. Got the ball, went down there, kicked the game-winning field goal for Trent Dominique or Domain. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce his last name there, but that was a big win.
Yeah, because I tweeted out early in that game, like, Baylor looks like they're going to hang 60 on Texas because they made it look easy.
And
that first drive was like, beep, beep.
Right,
And
Seth Russell for Baylor, I guess it's just, it has to be that scheme that's being run at Baylor. Even though there's a new head coach, Art Briles is gone, but we saw it with RG3.
Yeah.
He put up monstrous numbers while at Baylor. We saw it with Bryce Petty put up monstrous numbers at Baylor, and now Seth Russell's doing the same thing.
Yep. And what are those guys doing in the NFL right now?
No, seriously, what are they doing in the NFL
somebody
right
please
now?
answer that question. So, yeah, and that's what I mean. So, it was surprising. It was a I day for me. I enjoyed that victory. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed it. Let's talk about the playoff picture real quick, because as of this time we're recording this podcast, it's Tuesday evening. The first week of the college football playoff rankings came out. A surprise to a lot of people was probably the number 4 entry in this, where Texas A&M jumps over undefeated Washington to be that number 4 team. Now, Texas has had a much stronger schedule. Strength of schedule played big time here. Even those guys came out and said it this afternoon. That's why they chose Texas A&M over Washington. So up to this point, Texas has played 5 ranked teams, where Washington's only played 2. So both of those led to why they decided to put Texas A&M number 4. What do you think about that?
I don't like it.
Because you don't like Texas A&M.
Well, that's part of it. But I have never been a fan of putting teams with blemishes on their record over teams that are undefeated. I think there are only 4 undefeated teams left.
Yeah.
Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Washington. Alabama's already beaten Texas A&M. So with A&M being 4, Alabama being 1, that's one of the first round matchups of the playoff we would see. It's Alabama versus A&M. So I'm not a big fan of that. We've already seen it. We know how that ends. Washington's doing what they're supposed to do. All they can do is play the teams that are on their schedule.
Yep.
Of course, we all expected UCLA to be better. We expected USC to be better.
Yep.
We expected Stanford to be better.
Yep.
It's not Washington's fault that they didn't do their job. Washington's doing their job, but these other schools in the Pac-12 are letting them down, so I don't think that should be held against Washington. Whereas with A&M, you know that in the SEC every year, you're going to play stiff competition because those teams are going to come in and they're going to do their job.
And this is where you get into that area where a lot of people now are calling for, and they've been calling for since the very beginning, 18 playoff.
Right.
Yeah. And for reasons like this, it's not so much these teams at 6, 7, and 8. It's right there at that 4 and 5 level where those are real tight. You're starting to split hairs right there. Am I opposed to Texas A&M being there? Do I think they're good enough to be there? Yeah, I think they're good enough to be there. There's no doubt they are. But like you pointed out, they have lost, and Washington hasn't. They have went out, they played their games they're supposed to play.
And they've played well. They've looked good.
They really have. And so I get what they're saying, strength of schedule. But again, I think it's wrong to go to Washington and say, well, just because you haven't faced 3 other teams, and to your other point, it's not their fault the other teams aren't as good as they were made out like they were going to be. They still beat everybody on their schedule, and it was still up to Texas A&M to beat Alabama.
And I also look at it this way. Let's say each of these teams, 1 through 5, wins out. Alabama wins out, Clemson wins out, Michigan wins out, A&M wins out, Washington wins out. Only one of these teams would play 12 games. That's Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Alabama would have a conference championship game. Clemson would have a conference championship game. Michigan would have a conference championship game. And the Huskies at Washington would have a conference championship game. So if Washington plays 13 games, and they go undefeated through 13 games, and you're telling me that A&M plays 12 games, and one of those 12 games they lost one of them, they only have 11 wins. They have 11 wins and 1 loss, and Washington's sitting there at 13-0 that Washington shouldn't be in the playoffs. That's garbage.
I agree with
That's
that.
high garbage.
And I don't think it'll happen that way. I think if Washington wins out, they're in. I don't doubt that for a second, honestly. I think this is, honestly, what I think this right here is is them trying to cover their back just in case something freaky happens to Washington these next 3 weeks.
And
that's all this pick is. Right?
That way they can say, well, see, they didn't. That's why we had them at number 5. They didn't need to be in that top 4 because we knew that they were going to lose.
Exactly. This is one to make them. Texas A&M right now.
Pick.
Yeah, exactly. Texas A&M is giving them an out right now to not go ahead and put Washington up there just in case something bad happens these next 3 weeks, because we know how good Texas A&M has looked. So this is an easy, safe pick for them to put it right there. And when they use the strength of schedule argument, that in itself they're not wrong in saying so. But that's their scapegoat right there. But we got Michigan number 3, Clemson at 2, Alabama. It's no surprise is number 1. What do you think about 2 and 3 there? You think that's the right order for those guys?
I don't think it matters the order because they're going to play each other.
That's right.
Well, I take that back. Michigan still has to play Ohio State.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So we could actually see Michigan with the loss in Ohio State. Ohio State and Michigan could have that tied record, with Ohio State actually going to the Big Ten championship game by virtue of beating Michigan head-to-head.
Yeah. Ohio State didn't look good this past weekend. I mean, they won. They did what they should have done, but they struggled the past couple of weeks, really.
But the one thing that we've learned over the years is that no matter how bad the Michigan team was, pre-Jim Harbaugh there, that when these two teams play, it's always a great game.
Yeah, that's true.
And with both of these teams being really good, they're stacked at talent. At each position they have high-level talent, they have depth, and both teams have great coaches. Urban Meyer at Ohio State, Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. That game's going to be fun to watch, and that could really throw a monkey wrench into this top 5 or top 4 picture as well.
Oh yeah, I think without question. There's a lot that's going to happen in transition in here. Louisville. They didn't look good. They struggled this week.
Right, and they struggled this week, and it's not that their loss was a bad one. They lost to Clemson, who's number 2 on this list. So if they can win out, it's really going to be interesting to see, because you have a lot of those one-loss teams whose one loss was to great competition. So it's going to be fun to see how this shapes up. Of course, we still have another 5 weeks before this really gets finalized. That's know how this is going to shake out.
Let's talk about a little. I say it's controversial. It was controversial from Florida State's viewpoint. When them and Clemson went down to the wire this weekend, and then you had the call that really had Florida State coaches, players, everybody up in arms Saturday. What is your take on that? What do you?
It's like they always say in UFC. It's like they say in boxing. It's like they say in any form of martial arts. Anytime that a judge or an official can be involved, don't leave the game, the match, the fight, the event in the referee's hands.
Exactly.
Don't put it in their hands. If you go out there and you do your job for 60 minutes, you should be in a situation for a game to come down to that. Yeah. Now, granted, we've seen great games throughout history in football come down to the wire, that last-second field goal like we saw with Texas and Baylor this week. But at the end of the day, of course, you have to get it done, and everyone's going to be quick to want to crucify an official just because the Zebras are the scapegoats in everything. We've seen that a lot in the NFL this year.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, Florida State does a few things differently in that game. It's a different situation.
They had opportunities. They had opportunities in this game.
You think a team usually runs about 60 to 70 plays on offense in each game. That's 60 to 70 opportunities you had to do things differently.
Yeah, and they couldn't get it done.
So you can't put all of this on one call on one play.
Exactly.
You had a series of factors leading up in the first 50-plus minutes of this game to make this turn out differently.
Yeah. They didn't do it. Sorry. Talk about pick 'em. It's time.
Right.
Time to see how bad we can screw this one up this week.
Right?
Because it got rough last weekend. All right, let's start out with number 23, WMU versus Ball State.
Give me Western Michigan.
Western Michigan. I'm still shocked about that. Oklahoma, Iowa State.
Well, I'll go with Bob Stoops any day.
Might as well. UCLA, Colorado.
This actually makes me really happy. I don't even understand why. Actually, I do know why. I know the reason. Back in 2004, 2005. It was 2005. I had the NCAA college football game with Larry Fitzgerald on the cover. If you remember, it was on the cover.
Wow.
I played that game a lot.
No.
I actually did a dynasty with the Colorado Buffaloes. Took them to prominence. So to see Colorado in the top 25, and the top 15 for that matter.
Yeah, really.
I'm a big fan of it, so go Buffaloes.
There you go.
Going against a very disappointing UCLA team, you can win it.
All right, big game Friday night. San Jose State University against number 24 Boise State.
Give me the Broncos.
After that disappointing loss this weekend.
Broncos on that blue field at home, I'll take them.
Battle of the colors that hurt my eyes. Texas A&M versus Mississippi State.
Yep.
This should be a cake.
Maroon and white versus maroon and white.
That's right.
I'm going to give the game to maroon.
You can't go wrong.
A&M. Give me the visitors coming down to Starkville, Mississippi. They should clean up nicely.
Number 7 Louisville against BC.
Last time I checked, the Hasselbeck brothers or Matt Ryan's not coming to quarterback this Boston College team.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll roll with Lamar Jackson.
Wisconsin, Northwestern.
Like I said, I think the Badgers are a great team despite their 2 losses.
Yeah.
Northwestern is not a great team with their 4 losses. So let's give me the Badgers on the road.
Northwestern's pulled out some crazy games. You never really know with them. Vandy, Auburn.
Vandy's a train wreck.
Yes, they are in so many ways.
So give me the dual quarterback, Sean White, John Franklin III system.
All right, you got Georgia Tech and number 21 UNC.
All right, Georgia Tech's been sneakily good this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing what they're supposed to. They're 5-3. They're not going to come out here and be world beaters or anything by that nature. But UNC, despite the early loss to Georgia, they've looked really good when they beat Florida State. I like the Tar Heels. I like their quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. And a lot of people are thinking that he could be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the draft coming up this year.
When UNC is on, they play really good team football. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I will go with them all day long. Clemson, Syracuse.
Yeah, Syracuse got the big win over Virginia Tech.
They're not going to get a big win over Clemson this week. Don't bank on
Deshaun Watson is better than anyone that Justin Fuente can throw out there at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
So Syracuse is going to have their hands full. Clemson gets the win.
Maryland, Michigan.
It's at the big house. There's no way the Khakis are going down.
No, they're not. What about this one? Florida and Arkansas.
Well, what we got to see with that Auburn-Arkansas game 2 weeks ago
Oh my God!
was that
hideous.
Arkansas, they don't have the offensive line that they had last year or the year before. Their defense isn't that solid. They're definitely missing Alex Collins, who's now with the Seattle Seahawks, and Jonathan Williams. So give me Jim McElwain's Gators on the road in Fayetteville.
Going to Fayetteville. All right, what about TCU? Baylor, who dropped 9 spots. I don't see Baylor losing this game to TCU.
I don't see Baylor losing, but, TCU was one of those teams coming into the season that everyone thought would really contend in the Big 12. They would contend, for that Big 12 championship. They got Kenny Hill, the transfer from Texas A&M, but it's been a very disappointing season for the Horned Frogs.
Well, Oklahoma State's back in the rankings. They peak in at number 18.
They deserve it.
Going against K-State. You know what? You made me a believer in Oklahoma State last week, so might as well roll.
I'm rolling
with that
Mike Gundy on the road to beat up Dan Snyder's Kansas State team.
Virginia Tech, Duke.
Duke's been interesting over the last few years. David Cutcliffe's really had them in contention, especially a few years back. Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M played Duke in a bowl game, and Duke had them on the ropes for a while before Johnny Manziel just went into Johnny Manziel mode and just blew the doors off of it, keeping plays alive long enough for big plays to develop.
Exactly.
But Duke doesn't have that talent this year. Give me Justin Fuente and the Virginia Tech Hokies.
All right, Arizona, WSU, who's at number 25 this week.
Yeah, Washington State creeped into the top 25. Mike Leach, like him, hate him, whatever your opinion is on him, the man can coach football. It's been a rough sledding since Mike Leach took over at Washington State for them to get on track and really get any kind of recognition. Because when you think of college football programs, you don't think of Washington State. But Washington State is going to beat up this terrible Rich Rodriguez-led Arizona Wildcats team.
Speaking of terrible, Kansas 1-7 is going to West Virginia.
Right, yeah. West Virginia's right in the ship this week. You know, I think Dana Holgerson's really going to have his team ready and focused, and the Mountaineers are not going to lose at home. Kansas has to go halfway across the country to play this game. West Virginia wins this one easily.
FSU is still ranked at number 22. They've got a record of 5-3. They're going against NC State, who's unranked, of course, at 4-4. I think Florida State's going to go in there and just annihilate NC State.
You know, and NC State, just a few weeks ago, was looking like the surprise team of the year. Because I don't think anyone expected them to have some of the wins that they did. But since then, they've really fallen off the wagon. And I think Florida State's playing good football at the right time. Yeah. You can say whatever your opinion is of the call in the Clemson game. Florida State has the talent to play with anybody on any week. It's just a matter of harnessing it and getting them together, focused to win, because they do have a good team. They have a lot of young talent. Exactly. So as this team gets more experience, they're going to play better in the future. But I'm still going to take them on the road to beat North Carolina State.
There you go. Iowa 5-3 is taking on number 12 Penn State, who's 6-2.
Honestly, I think this game could go either way. I thought Iowa would be, and I think a lot of people thought Iowa would be better than 5-3 so far this year. But conversely, I don't think anyone expected Penn State to be 6-2. James Franklin, head coach at Penn State, you know, he got that big win a couple weeks ago against Ohio State, which was huge for him. But I think that Penn State's going to keep trying to ride that wave of emotion. I think it's going to backfire this week. Iowa's going to go into Happy Valley, still a win.
Well, I'm going to go into Penn State because they are at home. And it's a night game at Penn State. I just think Penn State's going to take care of business.
That's going to be my upset pick this week. Iowa over Penn State.
Speaking of upsets, LSU is going to be very upset when the Tide rolls right into Death Valley Saturday night.
LSU is looking at, since Ed Orgeron's taken over, they've looked at it like it's a new season.
Yes.
They're 3-0 under Ed Orgeron.
They've been very excited.
But the fact is, you still have to look at the whole spectrum of the season. Fact is, you didn't play well in your first 4 games.
Yep.
You've gotten some momentum going the last 3 games, but we've learned that victory over Ole Miss wasn't really as big as they thought it would be. Because Ole Miss just hasn't played very well this year, and they're not that good of a squad. So I'm going to take the Crimson Tide on the road in Death Valley. Even though it's Death Valley at Saturday at night, like I've talked before on the show, you don't want to play LSU in that situation. Alabama's scared of nobody.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like these teams haven't played a lot of good, close football games. They're usually always tough, but it's usually always tough when Les Miles was there, and I don't know how tough that's going to be with Orgeron.
I think Les Miles is a better football coach than Ed Orgeron, better head coach than Ed Orgeron anyway. And Nick Saban is the football coach in college football.
So, and people can just get used to that. You know, you hear a lot of people calling him Nick Satan, but then, you know, a lot of people don't like you when you win.
Right.
You know, especially
if you're successful, people will hate you for it.
Exactly. Welcome to America. Number 10, Nebraska, going against Ohio State.
Right, like I said, Nebraska season's backloaded against a lot of stiff competition. I don't see the Buckeyes losing this one in the horseshoe.
You know, I need an upset pick. I would agree with you. I don't think they're going to lose either, but I'm going to go ahead and take Nebraska. That's going to be my upset pick.
All right, well.
When folks wake up on Sunday morning and go, what just happened?
Have fun crying into your adult beverage when they don't win.
Well, I did that a lot this last weekend, too, when I looked at my pick, so what's going to change? Washington should be an easy victory over Cal. Really late Saturday night.
Yeah, Washington's giving me something to believe. Yeah, it's late for Central or Eastern time. It's 10:30 kickoff Eastern time, 9:30 Central. But this is on the West Coast because it's Washington versus Cal.
That's right.
So it's only going to be about 7:30 there. But, you know, Washington and Jake Browning have been phenomenal this season. They're undefeated. And I see no reason why that shouldn't continue this week against the Golden Bears.
Exactly. Before we wrap this up, did anything happen this weekend that made you change your mind about the Heisman Trophy?
No. Because Lamar Jackson. is Lamar. And once Lamar Jackson quits being Lamar Jackson, if he quits being Lamar Jackson for multiple games, then I might change my mind.
Yeah.
But until Lamar Jackson quits stiff-arming people, hurdling over people, throwing the ball for 500 yards, running the ball for 200 yards, scoring touchdowns with both his arms and his legs, seeing no reason why he shouldn't be the favorite.
Exactly. I'm just excited Jabril Peppers is up there.
Right.
I just love seeing a defensive guy up there and a quarterback-driven award, because that's really what the Heisman Trophy is for the most part.
And I believe I saw that, in Michigan's game this past weekend, he had a rushing attempt, a reception.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he had he had sacks, he had kickoff return yards.
He does everything.
He does everything, and he's really the first defensive player since Charles Woodson to do that. Charles Woodson also played at Michigan. So Jabril Peppers definitely has earned Heisman consideration, but there's no way you're topping Lamar Jackson this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but boy, Jabril Peppers is going to get paid.
Oh, yes.
No, he's going to get paid
he's
well.
Going to be a first-round draft pick.
That's going to be awesome. Well, guys, we got to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Sports Clash Radio, College Football Edition. Had fun talking to you guys. We've been over a lot this week, talked upsets, Heisman Trophy, the first weekend of the college football playoff rankings. Do you agree with the rankings? Do you think Texas A&M should be in, should be out? How do you think it's all going to go down? Get your pick'ems in. You can let us know what they are. You can email them to us. You can put them at the bottom of the YouTube videos. You can get with us on Facebook, Twitter, Sports Clash Rad. Facebook is going to be Sports Clash Radio. Or go to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/sportsclash. Follow us there. Help us get the word out. Thanks to all you guys who have already started tuning in, liking, sharing our videos, sharing our Facebook page. We really do appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll talk to you guys soon.